Well, welcome back to Mr. Obsolete's Vintage Homesteading. It's the end of October. We're getting ready to winterize our little tractor here, so we'll show you the things to look for. Whether you have a real garden tractor like this, or a lawn tractor, which is just basically a riding mower. So the first thing we're going to do is we run it, we got it warm, we're going to change the oil. Put on some gloves here. Two reasons. One, it'll keep you from getting dirty, and the other is so you don't burn yourself. Here's some of the things that we're going to do as soon as that airplane flies by. I'm going to top up the fuel tank. You want to use a fuel stabilizer like this. It'll keep the gas from breaking down. And if you have no access to alcohol-free fuel, it's really important because the moisture can really mess up your carburetor and stuff. And there's different types of this. There's some of them specifically for that type of fuel. We're lucky and have non-alcohol fuel available here. You want to fill it completely full. It keeps any condensation getting in it. The other thing is you want to check the belts. This belt here does two things. This is a generator, a DC generator, and when you run electricity to it, it actually becomes the starter. It spins over like an electric motor. And this belt, you can see, is way down in the groove here, which means it's just about wore out, but it's still got good tension on it and it's still usable. And I'm going to change it out, but on this one, to do that, I either have to loosen the motor and move it out, or take the drive shaft out because it runs off the front of the motor, and one of the drive couplings in it is starting to disintegrate. So I found a drive shaft bush part for it, and I'll do that. And so one thing with these, it's a simple system and works really good, but it doesn't charge the battery unless you run it a lot. So the other thing before I put it away for any length of time is to fully charge the battery, and that way you're not going to have any problems. And the other thing I'll do, I'll take out the spark plug and check it. If you get a twin cylinder one, you have two. Hopefully you can see this. It's kind of black and just a little bit sooty. This time of year, this is a problem because the cold air and the moisture in the air freezes as it goes through the carburetor. It's what's called carburetor icing, and it get too much fuel. And so what I do to alleviate it to a degree is start it up and run it for a few minutes, and then shut it off, and then the heat from the engine will get on the carburetor and keep it from icing. But you can see it cleaned up real quickly and stuff, so it's not bad. But it's just part of the crappy fuel we have today. And the other thing we'll want to check is the air filter. That's pretty dirty, so yep, we're going to replace that. And then the next thing we're going to do is lube the chassis. So down on your front axle, there's some little fittings that are for greasing the joints here. We'll get the camera over here so you can see them. What you want to do first is wipe them off to get any dirt off them. And take a wire brush and clean any other debris off around them. So we'll be right back with the camera here. Okay, we'll put the grease gun on that fitting right there. And pump some grease into the spindle here. You see the grease coming out here. Right there. So that's completely full. And so there's another spindle on the other side to do that, and sometimes a pivot point under there will have a grease fitting, which this one doesn't. This has a couple of them underneath on the steering column, which new tractors don't have, but I've already greased those. And I'm going to show you one other nice feature of this tractor in just a second. Be right back. Okay, we're going to show you a little feature here. Here's another project. We're going to have to do the seat covers going bad on it, but that'll be a winter project. Open this up and you look down inside here, you can see there's a grease fitting right down in here. And right next to it is a hub-like affair. And what that is, it's actually a differential. In order to simplify and make the transmission really strong, the differential part of it is actually outside of it, and the differential lets the wheels turn at different speeds when you're turning. So that was a real simple but really good idea. That way they didn't have to put a whole bunch of extra parts in the transaxle and make it big and huge. This way it's simple and strong, works great. So there again, that's why vintage is better. We'll see. Okay, one thing, if your old tractor has a starter generator like this, it also has oil cups. So you want to put some fresh oil in here. The newer tractors have a charging system that's built under the flywheel, so that isn't something they have. So the next thing we're going to do is lift up the back here. We want to check our drive belts. And this thing is new, so that's fine. And then the transmission and the differential are back here. And there's plugs on here to check the fluid level, so either check it or fill it and replace it. Because the transmission's up here, there's a filler plug here, this one has one over here. You adjust the brake and stuff on it. These old tractors actually have a real transmission and a real differential, where the lawn garden tractors of today, so-called, or lawn tractors, have what's called a transaxle. It's a kind of a cheap unit that everything's encapsulated in one unit, and they're not very good. So you can't pull stuff with them a lot or do any hard work because they just fail. Then the other thing that we're going to do, tire pressure gauge. So we want to go around and air up the tires. I usually run about 10 pounds on the front, about 15 in the back with these balloon type tires. They don't need a lot of air in them. It gives it a nice cushion and makes them hook up good. So those are the things that you want to do. Now I'm going to talk about oil, for instance. Regular car oil like this is not good for these old tractors. If you have a new tractor, you want to buy it from the company that manufactured the engine, because it'll have all the additives and stuff in it that they need. Regular motor oil for cars today doesn't have that in it anymore. The main one is zinc diophosphate, and it's a load bearing liquid metal. Goes on the bearing surfaces and protects the engine from hammering itself apart, because oil itself doesn't do it. So it mixed with oil and stuff, that's why your engine stays together. But they took it out of the oils like this because new cars, it damages the emission stuff on them, so they took it out and modified the engines. But the things that you need to add to it, this is my old standby STP, been around forever. But like everything else, it isn't as good as it used to be. Has virtually no zinc in it anymore. There again, it says you can use it in modern cars, and that's why. So the thing that I do is buy ZDDP, which is zinc diophosphate, and add that to the oil. Don't need very much of it. Makes a huge difference. Just as a for instance, when I was commuting for work, I had a little Ford Ranger pickup with a 4-cylinder engine. It had 111,000 miles on it when I got it, and I'd changed the oil every 3,000 on it, and it was pretty well dirty by then. But when this came on the market and stuff, I used to put this in it, and it would make the oil last another 1,500 miles. It also cost me $13 to do it, but the engine never had any troubles and stuff. And when I retired and stuff, I sold it, but it had 340,000 miles on it. Didn't use any more oil than when I got it. Ran perfectly. The only work I ever did to that truck was brakes, tune-ups, and a radiator. And it gave us tremendous service. But this stuff makes a huge difference. So if you take a little extra time and spend a little bit of extra money, you can be like me and have stuff that lasts forever. So anyway, there's the tips on how to take care of your garden tractor for winterizing. We'll see you on the next video. Vintage is best.